this thing. So we are live stream, just in case if you're not you're camera shy or anything. Okay, cool. Awesome. So welcome to EdinburghJS meetup. So this is a monthly meetup. Last month we were hosted at Mousy, and this month we come back to Skyscanner. And we are always looking for speakers. So if any of you are interested in talk or like just have a chat or if there's anything you're interested in and you want to share your side project or anything, just let me know. And it's a very casual meetup. Like usually we don't have to sit like this. We can like, change the format. And then if you have any idea for how you want us to run the meetup, just let me know as well. And so we have a live stream partner, which is Product Forge, and which is they run local hackathon events throughout the city. So one of their events that's coming up is public health hackathon at Biscuit Factory in Edinburgh. It's from Thursday, the 25th of Sunday, and to 28th. Wait, Thursday, 25th to 28th, January 2018, with the NHS. And then, so the Public Health Product Forge is a unique opportunity for data scientists, analysts, software engineers to work in collaboration with healthcare professionals and contribute their skills to develop innovations aimed at improving health of people and their communities. So if anybody's interested in this, just check out their website, and they probably have announcement on that. And so today we have two speakers, and they're both from Skyscanner, just because it's easier to find speakers here. And we're gonna talk a lot about React. Yes, hold on, there are a couple more people coming. So a lot of people ask me like what kind of stack we use at Skyscanner, and that's a really hard question to answer because we are our teams are kind of feature based. So every team have a focus. We don't do like front and back end team sort of thing. We do like, okay, this team owns this goal and the other team owns this goal. And a lot of time you will see people are contribute to the same space at the same time simultaneously, and and then different feature on different part of the page are powered by different stack. So today we're going to talk about how, one of the main part of the Skyscanner, is a search result of flight search result page. And on that page is owned by one team, but all other team, they're free to contribute any feature they want. So today we're going to talk about how we migrate to for that main team itself, how they migrate from Backbone to React, and how other team contribute their feature in React to this main page. So welcome our first speaker, Mishka.
So I am going to talk a bit about how we're going from Backbone to React. I'm Mishkat Ahmed. You can find me on nowhere because I don't do social media. But so I'm part of the flight search squad. And we basically do most of the stuff that you see here. So when you're on Skyscanner, you do a search. This is a page that you're greeted by most of the time anyway. And this is what we maintain. Specifically, that highlighted area there, that's what we do. So as Sway said, we have different teams contributing to the same page basically. And this is our contribution to it. We also do the search controls, but they're kind of not going to be ours for much longer. As you can see there, you got the header, you've got the footer down at the bottom somewhere. That's not us either, and you've got all those adverts and stuff like that. So we call this the day view, specifically that section there, and that's what we do. So why do we want to migrate from Backbone to React? So one of the goals at Skyscanner is that we should have an internal open source culture. So that means that anyone from any team should be able to easily make contributions to any code base at Skyscanner. And we want it to be easy, because if it's easy for them, it's easy for us. So what's the problem here for us then? Basically, we have a big monolithic code base. And due to its size and complexity, that makes it really hard for people to contribute. It's pretty big, it's about 400 modules-ish. And to make any small change, to add a little feature, you need to know a lot of context, and that kind of prohibits people from contributing to it. And it makes more work for us as maintainers. So the other thing is to improve maintainability. We spend a lot of time working with external merge requests, getting them to do things the right way, which might not be very obvious, just because of the way the code base is. We get around 25 merge requests a month from external teams. And that's not just like little features here and there where you can just take a look at it and straight away merge it. We actually spend time and work with them to get things done the right way, which isn't always very obvious, even for us, and we maintain the code base, so we don't expect everyone else to know exactly how things are done. Some of the pains that we have with the current code base, I'm just going to go over them. So it's in CoffeeScript and Backbone. CoffeeScript was hip a few years ago, and I think JavaScript pretty much caught up with a lot of the things that CoffeeScript did back then. So, and a lot of people prefer it now. We have a lot of tooling around using JavaScript, easily making components, things like that in JavaScript. So a lot of people in the company are quite familiar with it, and it makes it easier for everyone else. So CoffeeScript is kind of quite old now. Backbone, it's 2017 now. You can't be seen using it. And yeah, it makes it difficult to scale because I think it kind of promotes that big monolithic code base kind of thing. So that's kind of one of the problems that we're having. Also, another thing is that there's loads of controllers doing so many different things that you don't even know where to look when you start debugging a bug or starting to look where to add a new feature. And mixins don't really help that. I mean, they help contributors because once you've created a mixin, you've got access to everything else. But when you're debugging and maintaining, it's just absolute hell. I'll just show you an example of one of the controllers that we have, and it's got like heaps of mixins, and yeah, here we go. So you've got like a massive array of mixins here, and you don't know, looking at this, what they're doing and when they're doing it, and yeah, it's not great. Yeah, state management is an absolute pain. Backbone has models and things like that to kind of keep it together, but it didn't really work for us very well. We've got so many additions and external things, data coming in, that to fit it in the main models is difficult. And also the fact that state is kind of kept everywhere. There's no one single place to keep the state. Some of it's in the DOM, some of it's in the models. And the difficult part about that is that you don't know what you're affecting when you change something somewhere. So what you think is a simple innocent change could affect someone else's view because they're relying on a state to be a certain way to do that, and you're just mutating it everywhere. So that makes it difficult to contribute as well, because of all those side effects that we have with all the mixins and the controllers. And yeah, you just can't be really sure whether you've broken something. So that's our low confidence in the code base. You don't know if you've broken someone else's feature by just making a little change. Here's some more things. The feature code is spread out absolutely everywhere. It's even difficult to reason with it in the same file. So I'll have a look at one of our templates, HTML templates. So here you can see there's an if statement to check if, let me just find it, if the payment fees feature is enabled. So what this is doing is it's just adding a div, or in fact it's adding a class here to see if payment fees are available. And it's also doing that somewhere else here. It's adding a div here if payment fees are available, and then somewhere else it's adding another div if payment fees are available. So trying to get around that in the same file is hard enough. It's really imperative. There's a lot of edge cases when you're trying to display something, and there's a lot of cases where we've got, if this, then do that, and it can get quite big. And possibly the most annoying aspect is that DOM manipulation. It's just everywhere. And it's just the constant abuse of what jQuery allows you to do, basically. So we had to lay some groundwork for the migration first. So first, we are decaffeinating our codebase. So if anyone has a CoffeeScript codebase that they want to turn into JavaScript, decaffeinate, that's a really good tool. There's another framework that we try to promote is vanilla.js. If you've ever heard of that, it's just plain JavaScript. So yeah, try not to use Backbone or jQuery anymore and write highly modular, highly testable pieces of code. And another thing we did is we did have end-to-end tests for all our critical paths, but we wanted to really enforce it for every feature and every experiment that anyone wants to implement in the code base. And this just kind of lays the groundwork for when we're migrating, so we can have a bit of confidence that we haven't broken other people's stuff. And yeah, just encourage everyone to not do DOM manipulation. So this is our roadmap. First of all, we wanted to get everything done in React. We can't do this all at once. So because our code is a place where a lot of people like to contribute, because it's the front end, it's what most people interact with. There's a lot of experimentation on that. So people adding new features, seeing if things work out. There's a bunch of different plugins and stuff that go into it, and we can't do it all in one go because we'll just be blocking half of Skyscanner from doing anything, and that's a lot of money to waste. So what we did was we kind of broke it down into different features and said, all right, we'll stop taking merge requests on this particular bit and then convert that to React and move on from there, basically. Step 2 of our plan was to introduce Redux or some kind of state management layer so that we can finally get a grip of state management. The third step is to migrate everything to open components, and that's something that Vitaly, the next speaker, will be talking a little bit more about. But it's basically a way to make really modular websites from small components, small React components that you can just plug into your page quite easily. And then from there, we'll just make a lot of money. Yeah, so currently we're about here. But we have learned quite a bit. So let me just tell you a bit about where we are at the moment. So the code base is 50-50 CoffeeScript, JavaScript. We didn't want to do it all in one go because there's areas of the code base that are touched a lot, and we wanted to get those into JavaScript first, and then we can kind of forget about the other rest, or not, but we'll get to them. We'll convert them slowly. It's also currently in Backbone and React, and that's kind of nasty, but necessary. So if you go on the Skyscanner website right now, you will see that some of it is in React and some of it is not. If I look at the React tools, you can see there are some components. So the header, that's not us, but it's in React anyway. There's other bits, so I think that's the price alerts bit, which you can't see because the resolution on there is a bit low. Oh, here, as you can see, there you go, a React container mounted there. Yeah. And yeah, so we've got Backbone, we've got React stuff in Backbone, which I'll talk a bit more about later. And we also have quite reliable end-to-end tests. So when migrating, we can know quite easily if we've broken something, which has been very useful so far. So what have we learned so far? Well, initially when we planned this, going back to the roadmap of breaking features down, we initially thought we could just, break down, get a feature and convert that and then release it. That was a horrible plan. This is what happened essentially. Here's a merge request with, where are we? 148 changes. And yeah, you can see down here, loads of files touched. And that is, yeah, GitHub's really slow when it needs to do this. Like, that's absolutely crazy. There's no way you can start reviewing that. It's just absolutely mental. Yeah, so that's like, a merge request that size is almost impossible to ship. It's just taken so long and it's been really difficult because you don't know what you've broken, you don't know where, you don't have the, the merge reviewer doesn't know where to start basically, and yeah, it's a bit of hell. So what we're doing now is just doing little really small chunks at a time. Even if it doesn't provide the user with any benefit initially, it's at least going to be more stable and it's easier to get it out. You can just set the groundwork for the next bit, and the user won't notice anything, but at least it'll be easier for the developers. We also used CSS modules, which is awesome. If anyone else here has used that, we use it a lot at Skyscanner. And this allows us to basically co-locate our CSS and JavaScript. So it's easy to reason about where the CSS is coming from. I mean, you never end up with massive CSS files. So what we do is we have each React component has its own CSS file. And if you want to look up the CSS for that component, then you just look at the file that's right next to it. And it doesn't pollute the global style sheet because all the classes are hashed. So you can be sure that you're not affecting anyone else by adding a particular rule if you do it right. And a big problem that we came across was the data binding between the backbone estate and our React components. So at first we just thought we could use React DOM.render in place of any templates that we used. And this worked fine, it seemed, but there was actually a memory leak. So what was happening was that instead of filling in their templates, we would just call React DOM.render, and that would put some nice HTML on the page. But React didn't know how to clean that up when it was off the page because we're kind of messing around with it, and that's not how it's supposed to be done. So what we had to do was we rendered a container, which would only be rendered once, and basically pass data in through that using a bus, and that would update the props inside the container. So I can show you a little bit about how that works. Where are you? So here we have a container, and this is only rendered once on the page. And basically these are the bus events that it listens to, and it gets in new prompts. It's a bit nasty at the moment, but this is just temporary until we get the rest of it done in React. This is just to shoehorn it into our current application. And basically it just gets a list of itineraries and renders them how it sees fit. And this has actually been quite useful in one of the features that another team were developing. They were developing infinite scroll, and they were having trouble with that because of having to append stuff onto the page using jQuery and things like that. So this way they can just call that, publish onto that bus the itineraries they want to display, and the container will just display them however it wants. And it's pretty cool because it works with things other than itineraries. I mean, you can pass in well, sponsored itineraries and widgets and things like that as well. And what will happen is it'll just check the type and then call the render method on the particular component that that type is mapped to, and it just works a lot easier. Yeah, that's all from me. Anybody have any questions?
Any reason you guys are using modular CSS instead of just injecting it?
What do you mean by injecting it into component?
We can attach the component with it and just have to pull it up as the component.
Sorry?
We can attach the component with it
I don't know what you mean, sorry.
You're talking about status CSS and JS, right?
I don't know, sorry. If anyone else, wait.
So like why are we using extracted CSS instead of CSS and JS? And I think that I'm not in that team, but I can answer in that like CSS and JS is nice conceptually, but there are too many intricacies in shipping your style inside JavaScript in terms of like performance and time to render and like lots of those things. So, and I think especially with JD, they found that having extracted CSS that's separate from the JavaScript is still like extremely valuable in terms of page load.
Yeah, and also there's still a majority of our CSS are still global CSS style sheet, so we kind of use one extract text plugin for all of them. So CSS module is pretty easy to integrate.
I actually agree with you. Just that the
Yeah.
place that I'm at is pushing very hard in the direction.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you just have we have Webpack bundle, and it's pretty easy to like migrate that with it. So.
I'm not sure about them, right? Because I'm not there as a team. But for other things, we do use that, but only for things that are loaded conditionally. So all the things that eventually get shown on the page get downloaded in the main CSS bundle. But then if you need anything extra, say the user interacts with something or needs to be shown on the banner, then that CSS gets loaded conditionally on as a separate.
But it's still CSS, right? That's the
It's
point.
not JavaScript.
No.
Is it just .js?
Yep.
Alright, cool.
Yep. It's
I didn't
all.
know that.
It's your team that builds the tooling for that.
Well, actually, so it's like because the thing we found now was that it'd be great if you could have a thing that would let you do all the styling in JavaScript, but still do CSS extraction in a good way. Because like for our team, when we looked at this, so my team does the design system for Skyscanner, and when we looked at it, like anything that does CSS and JS and embeds the resulting styling inside the JavaScript bundle is a non-starter. We want something we can style in JavaScript, but having extraction step, we can still like rip it out and like make CSS chunks in Webpack.
Yeah, so I guess
One thing we
from the way you're saying that, you haven't found that, right? Because
No, we haven't found
I
that.
wish I could find that.
Yeah.
what we in Faneuil we are doing CSS and JS only, and it works quite well. We reduce our CSS size from 160 kilobytes to 8, and we use a library called Fela, which basically you write all your CSS in JavaScript, and then it will split each property into a hash name. So all your with AT will be class name A. So it's really, really small, and it works quite well. And there's no specificity at all. Overriding is forbidden, which is annoying when you start because oh my god, how do I do this? Over. But it works quite well, and so it is possible. And then the way we code split it, it's all because it's just JavaScript code. All the JavaScript, which is actually styling, gets split with the JavaScript splitting, because we code split JavaScript. So if a component or a view or a URL is code split, the CSS with it gets split as well, and we don't have to do anything.
It's cool.
Yeah, that works.
Alright. Did you measure? Do you have any like performance measures before and after, like compared to CSS in terms of like time to first paint or time to download and load it or stuff like that? 'Cause that's my
No.
big worry is that you have to wait for like now you have to wait for all the JavaScript to execute and then for all the JavaScript all the JavaScript to load and all the JavaScript to parse and then all the JavaScript to execute, and at that point you get styles, which is like extremely late in my head.
Yes, we do not. I haven't noticed any difference. Although it's possible, we code split the code a bit heavily,
Right.
so it's possible that we don't even run that much JavaScript per view.
Okay.
Although even if in global it's quite low.
Alright.
but it was quite a way to get there. It was not easy.
Outside of the larger bundles, I would think that like in a React world where you have to wait for everything to be downloaded, the renderers React, you don't have anything for the CSS to hang off of until React starts rendering, at least in the React world.
That's fair, if you're fully React, yeah. I think a lot of our, or essentially everything we do is the half and half at the moment, because of all these transitions. Like you have a page that's very roughly, or probably not even half and half, probably less, which can be problematic in itself. And we also, I think our reliance on SEO is quite important as well. So, and that SEO kind of falls flat as soon as you start going like fully advanced stuff as well.
Oh, quick question about the CSS in JavaScript. So you don't have any shared style sheet at all across content?
Yes. Well, so there's two parts. So the CSS itself gets atomized by this library. So even if you add a new thing with padding 20, that will share the class name internally. But that's an implementation detail to not increase the size of the bundle of CSS. But then we do share styles because everything is in JavaScript. The styles become functions. So we just import, export functions. And the way it works, each style sheet is a function. It's an object, and each key of the object is a function which depends on props and returns the literally justify, content, center, whatever. This is just this implementation, but the idea that functions can return styles is very powerful because then you just share functions. And you don't overwrite CSS with complicated cascading rules, you just overwrite JavaScript objects.
So styles are always decided on runtime?
Sorry?
So styles are always decided on runtime. So it was never computed at, it's no longer declarative, right? So it's always, you have to compute, like you have to do like something like dom.says style sheet, that sort of thing.
Well, we don't consume the props so much, but it's mostly static. We rarely depend on the values that the functions pass. But there's things like we pass as a prop is mobile because instead of using media queries, because there's a debate: should we use media queries or should we use user agent to determine if the user is in a mobile device or not? So there's arguments about it, but if you just pass is mobile as a prop, you don't care. It just comes, and then you know it's mobile because the prop says so. So that's most of what we do, of how the functions alter the style sheets. But then you can access, for example, any of the props of your React components.
Okay. That's cool.
What was the name of that library you used for
Fela.
CSS and JS?
Fela.
Fela.
F-I-L-A.
F-E-L-A.
Yeah.
Cool.
The public-facing stuff uses CSS old school.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect SEO at all.
No, it's just almost a tool to write pure CSS, but it all gets converted to pure CSS.
Cool. Any other questions?
I was wondering if with this idea of implementing or introducing Redux after you've introduced React, I was wondering if the architecture you take, the path you take, because you're not using Redux at first, might differ so much that it's actually quite a hard work to start using Redux.
Yeah. So I mean, that was the initial roadmap. Once we got started doing stuff, we're thinking about, doing Redux from the ground up with the React. So yeah, it's something that we have considered now, actually. Because you need to think about how it's going to be, and I guess it's going to be more difficult to do it after you've done everything in React. And yeah. If that answers your question.
Although with Redux, I wonder if you would have a problem because it seems like you could have several parts of the application which are in React but not with the same root, like 3 different React roots.
So what do you mean by that?
So I mean, our application is all React, so just React renders everything, there's Redux and that's all. But it seems to me that you have several parts of the application, which call React Render DOM.
Yeah.
So it's like different starting points for React. So sharing one Redux instance for all of them could be like, I wouldn't know how to do it, like off the top of my head.
Yeah, we haven't looked into that yet, to be honest. But
I would just think
If
it's hard.
they're separate React apps, then you don't need them to share.
yeah,
They
not
can,
you. Well, they are at the moment. For example, the booking panel. Let me just show you.
So is that one allowing you to share the state across
yeah,
those
that's
React apps?
Yeah, I'll just look it up. But for example, the booking panel here. This is in React as well, and this uses much of the same state as the results do here. So, I mean, that would be nice to be able to share using Redux. So we haven't really looked into how we can share one store within different mount points for React yet. But
I think at the start we treat components separate Redux.
yeah.
There are different teams owning it, different teams having separate deployment mechanism. So the first step is going to be completely separate. Like it doesn't even need to be React. So
Yeah.
Gather is in React, but doesn't use it for data in this case. But I think the second stage we will look at getting one state once the whole bit is in React, and then maybe I think that's the first logical.
So would you go down the route of having two stores be updated by UI change, or would you have one store updating another one? Like, if you, as soon as you use two stores, you have two places where you have that piece of state stored, right?
Yeah, I don't think that that's they would know about each other. So possibly it would be a separate kind of event bus where one interacts with another.
Right.
But they wouldn't know about the React store.
Okay. Because the alternative is if you're having to manage like two different React trees, you subscribe to one store with both trees, and if performance is not a problem and it's not an issue, in the memory leak site that you mentioned, you just render both trees as the stores change, and you just let the React do its thing. I feel like that would give you less bugs and problems than having two Redux stores. But
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking along the lines of having one store and trying to share that, pass that somehow through to the different React components. But yeah, as you get more of it into React, it's easier because if parts are overlapping, then you can just have them share the same container and then pass it in through there. So it all gets slowly easier.
How difficult was it to get all the sort of the build system to play nice with Backbone and then React? Was that quite easy?
Yeah, there wasn't any issues really in getting the build system. We used Webpack, and it worked fine out of the box really. Just have to include React in the as a dependency, and you're good to go really.
How have you decided where to start? Like, from which side to take?
Oh, what do you mean?
Like, you started to rewrite it, and which component you picked, or which part of the code you said, okay, I will take this chunk and start.
So, yeah, we kind of thought it'd be better to start from the small stuff and start to work outwards. So, for example, we started writing the itineraries, so this bit here, and then that was one small bit, and then we did the container that contains all the itineraries here, and that's like one chunk done basically. We've also done the sort panel, I think. So where's the sort panel? Oh. Yeah. So mobile sort panel. So this panel here, that is in React at the moment as well. And that's kind of like one separate piece of functionality that doesn't have to worry about much else. So it's all good. I think the interesting. Yeah.
So it started with a stateless.
Yeah.
It's easier.
And yeah, I think it'll get a little bit more difficult to get everything to play nicely once you've when you have to worry about state and things like that. But in the end, it should make it a lot easier.
Are you worried that you finish bearing it on and something else come along like web performance?
I've been working JavaScript, so yeah. I think we've invested quite heavily in React. I don't see it going anywhere. I think Facebook's backing it, so yeah. I don't see anything better coming up anytime soon anyway, so. But
Yeah.
I don't
That's what we said about CoffeeScript a couple of years ago.
yeah.
Then we'll just be running C# using WebAssembly. Be back where we started with JS.
Cool. Any more questions? All right, so we're gonna take a short break, and if you wanna go to the toilet, you can get a badge. Where's my badge? Oh yeah, they have my badge. So yeah, and then yeah, it's behind the elevators and just on the first floor, and you need a badge to get in. So if you can't find anybody, just post a comment or something. Yeah, so we're gonna take like 10 or 15 minutes break and get more pizza.
That is a hash.
Turn it off and on again. There we go.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Look at this. It's very buggy. Yeah. Oh wait.
We're gonna start a second talk.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
We're gonna start
Alright.
a second talk.
Okay, I don't know what I accepted, but let's go.
Shall we?
Your name is Vitaly or
Vitaly.
Vitaly, sorry.
Vitaly.
I'm saying it wrong.
It's not like Italy, like country. It's just it's spelling the same, but pronunciation is Vitaly.
I know. Okay, I've been doing it. There's so many people doing it. Okay, we're gonna start our second talk. Alright, cool. So before that, I wanna just say we have a Slack channel. I think most of you are already on it, but it's really quiet. So if you have if you have any questions or things you want to talk about, like I think that's a pretty good place and to just get help from just everybody in Edinburgh. So yeah. So now we have Vitaly to talk about how to build a small. Oh, what is the Slack channel? Oh right. Okay, you're not on it. Okay. Okay, cool. So we also have a Twitter account. So if you follow us on EdinburghJS Twitter, and the first tweet is the Slack channel. The URL of the Slack channel. You don't have Twitter either. Okay, I post the Slack.
What is this web to talk about? What's a web page?
What's the internet? Yeah.
Are you going to post the Slack channel URL in the Slack channel?
It's EdinburghJavaScript.slack.com.
Okay.
No, but they can't. They need an invite. Because like that.
You have an invite site.
I do have this, but the invite.
EdinburghJS.herokuapp.com.
Yes. So that's what it is. But I will post that on the meetup page. Are you on the meetup page? Okay, cool. So yeah, so Vitaly is going to talk about how to build a plugin, a widget, and that
How to build
eventually,
something.
yeah, got integrated into the debut. Mishka was talking about earlier. So.
My name is Vitaly. I work at Skyscanner. Not the same team as with CWA or Mishka, but we contribute a lot into their code base. So in our team there are 6 engineers. Half of them are data scientists. Other 3 are engineers, full stack engineers, and none of us have significant experience with web development. Despite all these facts, we decided to build something in the web. So today I'd like to show you one of our experiments. It's not live yet, but maybe soon it will be. So this is how our regular day view looks like. So you can see the flight, it's direct one-way flight from London to Sydney. There are a couple of options. I just picked this 4 on top. And from our perspective, we are working on constructed itineraries, so that's just mainly flights you book into 2 or 3 separate bookings. And from our perspective, it's not that always easy to identify where you would book constructed itinerary or normal itinerary, and how to compare, for example, to compare these 4 flights on top, where this one, from cheapest to most expensive. This one takes 26 hours, then 24, which is a bit more expensive. Which one to choose, this or this? It's not that easy to compare all flights, take into account both price and duration. So we came with an idea of something that we call timeline. It's a widget on Skyscanner. It's just a different representation of day view. Same flights, but same cost. But it's easier to pick one which is shorter or departs very early in the morning. So you could go to this link. Interesting. How can I switch to back to from my laptop to screen?
Mm-hmm. Did you try to switch to the slides?
No, just to show browser.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Okay. So probably, yeah, rearrangement. Nice.
So here it is. The small onboarding. This is our widget, so it can change departure time, arrival time. Why is it so big? So this small thing. Yeah, it's open. So this widget lives in our own code base. We do not depend almost nothing in a day view code base, just small bits. How we implemented it. So we used React, so it's all written in using React, and a backpack. Backpack is our own styling library with styles and assets. It's all collection of React components, and it's served using Open Components, which is an open source framework drawn for deployment and scaffolding to bring all of this onto Skyscanner. Yeah, I mentioned Open Components. So what's Open Components? It's open source framework developed by company called OpenTable, and it allows to reuse your components, your applications, as well as hosting them. It hosts them, and it allows you to transform monolithic website into many small microsites. And this is what we chose for our thing. So why we chose Open Components? Because with the regular approach, we could contribute into a Davio code base, but it would take many days to review tons and tons of code. And for us, the time was crucial, and we wanted to deploy it as soon as possible. So what's Open Components? They come with Open Components registry. The thing where you deploy your components, you serve them onto your pages from registry, and you can browse all other components, as well as JavaScript client, something just a piece of JavaScript. So if I want to put this onto my page, I would download client and then mention my component in OC component tag. This component could be any JavaScript thing. In our case, it's a React app created using create React app script, custom script with backpack styling and links to drone build system. So when our React app was ready, we found a place on the Davio where I would like to put it. So we would like to mount it somewhere over here and hide the normal Davio and show our thing instead. So we made a merge request onto FSS Davio team with just one div with mount point for our React application. Then we set this mount point, defined this mount point in React app, and published our React application into Open Component Registry using drone pipeline. Then we registered our Open Component in scaffolding. So scaffolding brought our thingy onto Skyscanner, and that's it. So in Chrome debugger, I can see that this is my JavaScript code. It's all been loaded, and it can render React app on a debut without any modifications into normal code base. So what we got with this, we own whole code. We do not depend on any external teams. We can make changes several times a day instead of once or twice in a week. And we can reuse this component, our widget, and put whenever we want on Skyscanner. Any questions?
I just want to say that feature is really good.
Yeah, good.
From a customer perspective, is that live?
Wait a second. It's not live yet. So we'll start. What's this? Okay, give me a second. I'll find it. So it's not live yet.
Can we get access to beta?
It's not live yet, and it works on one-way routes. So there's a tiny onboarding.
So if you just booked a one-way flight from Edinburgh to Sydney, then it would show up? Or?
If you are on the experiment. So you have to be lucky enough to fall into a bucket with users.
I was just booking a trip to the States, and it was just, it was that problem of like balancing the price to the time and finding it. So.
Yeah, I was booking something like a month ago, and this is exactly what I needed. It's actually such a good feature.
Nice. Does override feature test work outside Skyscanner?
Yeah. So does it not work anyway?
It used to work.
Oh.
No.
You used to be able to join the experiment you wanted, but now we disabled that. If you try different user agents,
Just keep opening it in incognito tabs.
Eventually, clear cookie every now and then.
Wipe the UX, install again.
yeah. Take a big magnet, wipe.
Why are you guys so conservative?
That's all going to take me quite a while.
Pardon?
Why are you so conservative about not releasing it?
Because it's very disruptive, and not all. I don't think it would suit all searchers and all people. So it's very interesting as a prototype, as something to play around and get a feedback from users what they think about it.
We also essentially any feature that goes off in Skyscanner goes out via an experiment, typically at lower locations starting off. So it's kind of standing operating procedure. They go, starting at 1% of users in maybe 1% of users in a market, and then ramp it up slowly. We never ever release anything fully to everyone. Apple Watches.
So what I found very fascinating about this, I don't have a lot of experience with web development, but React, cookie cutter app, any create React app thing, it's very easy to spin up your own app, put something, and deploy onto Skyscanner just in 2 lines of code. So it's magic comparing to all other things. Like I do another experiments on Dayview, and you spend hours and hours discussing all merge requests that you've done something wrong here, and not being dependent on the main team. It's kind of you can do something wrong, but if it's just an experiment, it's very great. You can ship something onto Skyscanner that easily.
How long did this experiment take you to complete?
You mean development?
Yeah.
It took 3 months, and one guy was working on it. I'd say 1.5 man. So one was intern, full-time intern, and half of the time of all other people.
Does this widget use all the basic data that's presented in the main page, or did you guys have to go to another server and do more?
No, it does not. It does not work with server side, so it does not have any backend. But what it does, it uses bus and exchanges the data between normal Dayview and normal JavaScript, which drives Skyscanner, and this widget. So get all the quotes, and for example, for these filters, we send events through bus back to Dayview, and Dayview updates all the data that we have to present on this first page, and we're good to go.
So in the wider move over to React, was this like something that you came up with, an idea that you came up with after that, or I guess the question is, would you have tried to build this without React anyway? Was it in the pipeline, or?
No, but the company switched to React quite a while ago, and we started building this only in June. So we had all things on our hands. So we had templates for React and the pipeline to deploy this into Open Component Registry.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the open component piece is maybe the more important part. So like as the first part kind of alluded to, contributing into Dayview itself is quite cumbersome, because you are one of many people doing that. So there's a long list of merge requests that wants to be merged, and it's a complex code base. So with open components, since you can render anything you want with just one reference in one place, it makes it a lot easier to kind of do something like this, because you essentially own the whole pipeline of building your thing, and you only need to insert essentially a call where you want it to show up.
Yeah, it's very true. Because ideally, you would get this header from one open component, and then this thing from another open component, and filters could come from the third open component. So you could combine 3 or 5 different things onto the same page and build your own custom Skyscanner.
And one question about bundle size, like how. So then, if open components are their own world and everything, can you share components among them?
What do you mean by share?
I mean, if there's a button component and 3 different of your components use that button,
Mm-hmm.
would that be putting that button in the bundle 3 times? Yes. I'm not sure how it works.
Currently we do that, yeah. So for stuff like that, we bundle it, but we do try to extract some bigger dependencies. So for example, React, which they all load, they won't load bundling. So we have another library that tries to kind of load just once. And as long as we have some bigger dependencies, we try to do that. While I guess for buttons, there can only be different version of button. So as long as you depend on same, then also the version increases need to be across all components. In this case, what that allows us is for each component to upgrade the button version on their own when they're ready for it.
Okay.
So if you extend it,
we chose to take a hit. Sorry, wanting to fill in the gap. We just take a hit on performance to allow people to release on their own heartbeat. Right. The idea is that if one component is using version 3.2 of a button and another one is using 3.3, they're fine with that. We're rather fond of getting people to work on their own heartbeat and getting people to update to common things, but not forcing a common standard on everyone at the same time, letting people catch up. So it is less performant, but it's a massive improvement to like engineers.
I mean, I'm an engineer, so engineering experience.
So
it's one of the things that came with scaling the company as well. So I then as well working like a core web team, with all the main web app, basically a lot of merge requests coming in. And they do very similar, like they want a big chunk of the page. And as the team scale, features like this are coming in from separate squads, in separate locations, separate offices.
Yeah.
It gets,
I guess you don't scale as much as the company.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it comes to a point where we need to just enable everyone to contribute on their own place. Release fast, even though we say, okay, maybe performance is like a few percent hit, but release cycles are like 100% better. So we can accept that, and we still try to mitigate performance with sharing dependencies and stuff like that, but we are aware that we takes a bit.
It's one of these things where if you have an MR or a PR site coming in from a Singapore office, right, with the overlap in work time is very low, we put in a comment saying, I'm sorry, can you change this to something different? You have to wait another 24 hours before that has been actioned. So if you have a few things that need to happen, it takes 2 or 3 days to even merge some code in. At that point, you're saying to yourself, why am I taking all this time when they could release their own heartbeat? Right?
So I mean, like, you know, for the component that you did, I mean, couldn't they just have a server running somewhere and they just put that div in and it links to their bundle and it renders? What does the component system? Is it like sort of an internal repo where you would push to that repo, and then you guys say, "Yep, we're gonna add that div to our to the main."
Sort of, yes. So we had that system a while back where we used site includes, where each team would maintain their own servers and have their own sort of endpoints where they would serve out scripts or content, and another sort of page would stitch it together. But eventually we wanted to move out of that for 2 reasons. One, we don't want every team having to manage their own servers. So for like small functionality, like just a small web component. And secondly, we also made a push to move out from our data centers into cloud systems, AWS specifically. So this was a bigger push towards that, where our central component registry is hosted in AWS, and since it's a more graphical interface of what is already out there in Skyscanner, it prompts, supposed to prompt more sharing of components. So when we did an audit earlier, we found there were about 7 different versions of the search controls being used in 7 different places. We wanted to sort of unify that, so every time you need the search controls, you just pick from the same place and reuse that everywhere.
I think, as you said, one of the biggest one, basically, engineering experience is serverless. We're not caring about servers, even though they have server code, like server-side code in Node in this case, as well as client-side. Servers are coming for them. They're scaled by a separate team, stuff like that. So write your code.
But I guess the important thing is that the registry where you publish to it, and you can see, there's 3 versions of buttons. You guys have released a new version of the timeline now.
So we also have something where I don't know the correct word for it, but kind of a design hierarchy kind of thing. So where we start out with atoms, which is the smallest kind of thing, colors, typography, and stuff. Then it grows on from there in the more molecular sense. And then buttons and stuff, we still kind of take the performance hit where every component could include their own. But somewhere higher than that in this is the React app. We are slowly moving towards, in fact, this was something we were working on today, where we're trying to move towards sharing React app between different. So every time you kind of have to re-render something. So if you wanted to re-render the entire day view, you wouldn't have to make a call to a server-side call to open the registry to say, fetch me a new version of this component again. You could sort of share that React component.
It could be a comments bundle, maybe that's shipped.
Yeah, But for more granular stuff, we still take the hit where we bundle everything.
The system is called Atomic Design. So one of the pieces I mentioned in the backpack is that you might work in this lower part of the piece, which contains our lower level design tokens, our atoms, which are like buttons, and then our molecules, which are like stuff like the data picker, coadd bonds, fully functional components. And then when you put those all together, you get I think the Atomic Design calls those
molecules.
No, systems. Organisms, right. And that's where the point that you get to open components. So we have kind of backpack to cover the lowest level, like bonds, which are just values and atoms, and the molecules, and then you get to organisms and systems. That's where open components is. So we have kind of nice natural.
In all this, have you looked at the web? Is it web components?
Web components.
At all?
Yeah.
Consider that in.
It's the standard is not quite where we want it, and the amount of users we get from user agents where that's just not a thing. I mean, you could polyfill it, so like Google does, for example, but the performance on that is rubbish. So in the future, maybe, but right now it's just not a great thing.
Yeah, test it and have performance basics.
Yeah, we have done a bit of. We've looked into various things that when we were shopping around for systems to deliver sort of decentralized components, right? And this seemed most aligned with our current goals, right? And that it's working now. It's working on all things, including say IE. Is it? Yeah, like stuff like that. Where if you wanted to have the latest and greatest, yeah, web components definitely a thing, but it's just not something we can do at the moment, at least. Yeah, I mean, we just recently deprecated IE 8, 9. Yeah.
9.
So
It
we
seems
don't
like
live in a world where that's possible.
React threw a bit of a spanner into the web components march a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because they script from what Google was doing with the Angular.
So I think for context, we just dropped support for IE 10.
No.
We still support IE.
Oh, I9, yeah. Exactly. that's kind of how bad it is in terms of stuff that's as English web components.
Yeah, but you should punish those users.
No flights for you.
It's a surprising amount from certain markets where we know people don't really have a choice. For example, South Korea has tons of people on older versions of IE, and that's because they browse the work, and work environments don't allow other browsers, don't allow newer versions of browsers. You can't really say, oh yeah, you just get the app, or get a better browser, because it's terrible user experience.
We don't have it anywhere near the load you guys have, but we have advisors that have like their high net worth companies, their average client have millions of pounds, and their back office staff are forced to use IE9 instead. It's like, for fuck's sakes, just upgrade the goddamn computer.
Yeah, but what if their internal apps were built using ActiveX?
You never know. Yeah, could be, but that's what VMs are for.
I was looking at IE6 2 years ago. The bank in New Zealand, all their internal software uses IE6. They can't upgrade to 7 because that would kill all their internal software.
or the NHS as well, as we saw with that weird fMRI machine where nobody wants to upgrade.
If someone's browsing Skyscanner on their MRI machine, you know what? Like, I want to meet that person. I want to meet that person.
It's probably a pretty boring job, right?
Let me scan this person's skull. Also, how much does it cost to fly to Dubai?
A lot of the last few questions, well, it's now diverged. But it was talking about the performance and the pros and cons of open components and compared to this, compared to that. But I'm still a little bit lost about exactly what open components does for you. It basically lets you use one div and inject a whole JavaScript app in there, or what is open components doing in simple terms?
Yes, basically this is. So two things. It allows us to bring something on a day view without hosting this in day view. And the second is we could use something else, but with open components we don't care about a place where we would host this, because open components come with registry, and registry is responsible for all versions and for hosting these assets.
So there's just like one Skyscanner registry that everyone uses, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many components are on there at the moment?
100.
About 100, 110,
Yeah.
I'd say.
So is it a storyboard browse that with?
And
or
that's
is it just
components
kinda-
of the scale of like the day view.
Usually like this one or
Yeah, like this one, or this search controls.
how do you browse the lots of components? Is there like a storyboard sort of thing or?
Yes, there's a
There's
registry.
a UI where you can browse through. It's not great, but it's there.
I don't think we can go.
Don't tease us.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the security team will have a word with you after this.
Yeah, I think we could.
Does someone manage it? Like, does someone manage it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna go through it and make sure there's no duplicates, or someone's like kind of there's some overlap, or like how does that all work? You know, if you have like, if somehow I don't know how
The overlap kind of thing is, well, not particularly handled at the moment, in the sense that you sort of, okay, this is blurred out, but if you went to that page, you could sort of see the components listed out, and well, we have weird situations where we have like two components called flight deals and flights deals.
Brilliant.
But yeah, this has happened, and we encourage people to sort of look through first to see if the stuff that you're building already exists, like just use that instead. Or if you really want something very different from it, try to make a merge request into it. If not, fine, sure, build your own. But yeah, the idea is that you build a small view with some small server code, create a React app out of it, and package it up and put it into S3. And basically, the open component framework is where you can call it with a set of parameters, and it will basically just return HTML to you.
Is like, so if your team released that component, are you guys then responsible for all the versions that you have released on there? So if you have 3 versions, are you guys responsible for patching all 3 of those if there's a bug found?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to decide where to put older version or newer version.
We also use sandbox, so basically major, minor, patch version. So you can stay, for example, you can have a rule like the change parameters, break change, release a major version, and potentially patch the older major version as well.
Does it work at the yarn or NPM level as well? Can you link to that?
No, so this is basically just HTTP calls.
It's just purely at that level. So you can't get a library or anything.
So yeah,
No.
they will use the system we talked about backpack, which is more low level, such as buttons. So the components themselves will npm install a backpack button, but then they will serve HTML. So buttons are shared as npm packages, while components are basically API HTTP calls.
It's a tough call. I get for running experiments in different teams, that's the answer. But on a lower level, granular framework, doing it at the library, just for pure efficiency, you wouldn't want to serve up 300 components, obviously. But
Yeah, I think our thing is like a component is something that can stand on its own. So button doesn't make sense on its own. A component as this component, you can put it on a page.
with that big, complicated search component or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions?
Good. So yeah, so I was originally thinking running a like a link copy format of discussion, but I kind of realized it's already 8:30. So we could just talk about whatever you want to talk about, just things you found interesting, or just any topic. You have any topic in mind, or you can want to ask more question about OC component or how Skyscanner works, or anything like that.
Show us your component registry.
Well, I think we should. Although I do think we should have a talk on that. Yeah, you wanna give a? You gonna do backpack? Yeah.
I can show you backpack. That's open source.
Well, we could do it. You want?
Sure.
Let's go for it. Yeah. Mish, can you just?
In the room.
Where's your laptop?
Where's my laptop?
Give me a laptop, man.
So yeah, so those guys, they work on OC components, and those guys work on backpack. Yeah. Me, me and Mishka work on debut. It's like everybody hates us because we don't do merge requests.
Rivals.
Yeah, kind of, because like it takes us forever to do code review. So that's what Vitaly was mentioning earlier, and that's why they have to figure something out, like by using OC components, so they don't have to go through us. So.
You have it right in your history, hopefully.
It will be in the history, definitely.
Good, 'cause I don't know the URL. Cool. Do you have a thing for like moving things around?
Yeah, punch up down. Oh, do you want to mirror the screen?
Or you can just. Yeah, maybe I want to do it. Yeah, you're right. All right. I have a mic now, but do you wanna?
Oh yeah, you want that? It's yours.
Is it on?
Yeah, it is on.
All right, cool. So yeah, so we talked a lot about open components, and let me bring up atomic design to kind of illustrate to you how we've structured this internally. So atomic design, right? Atoms, molecules, organisms, and then templates and pages. So the way we think about it internally is we also have this concept of bonds, which kind of sits one level down from atoms. So for us, we have bonds, atoms, and molecules live inside Backpack. Organisms is open components, and then templates and pages. Essentially, the future is going to be many organisms make up one template, or and then like an instantiation of a template as a page. So Backpack is our component library, which is essentially the realization of our design system into code. And it's I can start here because it's more interesting. It's open source. It's all in React. It's I think it's interesting because I work on it. So we're on GitHub, Skyscanner Backpack, straightforward. So we've built quite an extensive library of stuff for the web. So for example, like we talked about it before, buttons, they look like this. They are published as NPM packages. So this is where you get to the point of one or several OC components on the same page will have their own distinct copies of the buttons because they will be compiled into the bundle. And that means we can, like we said, that kind of means you can have multiple OC components that don't have to coordinate the version of every single package they use from Backpack, because that would be massively painful, because we see it just now trying to start upgrading to React 16 is enormously painful, and that's just one thing. So if we did it for everything, it would be terrible. So yeah, it's just NPM, and then our goal is really to make it so straightforward to use Backpack that you don't want to not use Backpack. So you get a button out of the box. It does exactly what you want. When designers do handoffs to engineers, they will we publish kind of a symbol library for Sketch, so they can design with Backpack, and then when they hand it over to developers, they say that's a Backpack button, that's a Backpack calendar, that's a what else do we have? That's an accordion, whatever we have, right? And that kind of massively speeds up all development, which is at our scale actually really important. And it also kind of
introduces consistency in design, because design with the same components. I mean, when we have lots of stuff. So a good example of more of a molecule is the date picker, which is like quite an advanced thing that has like this kind of behavior. It has you can go through it. You can select. You can switch months. It supports localization. It supports right to left. It supports it's accessible. So as a developer, if you wanted to have a calendar, you just go like, all right, I want a calendar, and you get it, and it does everything you would want, which is really nice. More recently, we've been doing React Native. So we have quite a lot of React Native components that are coming now. So a lot of them are iOS only for now, but we're kind of building out the library here. And the idea is very much the same, that we want to make it like extremely straightforward to just go like build stuff in React Native, and all the UI you build is like free. It just comes out of the box, looks right, etc. One interesting thing maybe for if anyone wants to build a component library is we use a tool called Lerna, which is awesome. So it allows you to have like a multi-package repository. So in our case, we have kind of two trees now. So we have native and packages. Packages is the web section, and like the web packages. Native is all the native stuff. So if you go in here, we have like one folder for every package, and every package is published by itself as an npm module. And Lerna is just awesome. It takes care of all this. So like if you want to have interlinked dependencies, etc., just like fixes it for you. So you can when you publish, it will like publish it with the latest dependencies of everything else, and it'll figure out stuff like between versions. It'll figure out like from last time you published to now, these 4 packages have updated, so you need to update those, which is just great. Native, kind of similar. We have some hosting stuff in here to host an app that runs Storybook. But then, yeah, it's like very straightforward. Same kind of deal with React Native. That's about it. I like this. Like working this really fun, and I think we've done a fairly nice job with it all. And it's all open source, so you can go look at it. And so we have, I think, pretty much everyone is. There are a few. So I know that the government are really they were really keen on the date picker because it's so well done. We had a team member here who's now left, he spent a good 2 months working on the date picker to make it right, and it shows. It is as a date picker, it's probably as good as you can get. And so they've kind of been contributing and finding bugs, etc., and doing some code contributions. But in some regard, it is our design system encoded for us. So the value of using it yourself is kind of meh, and by analogy, contributing back, why would you do that, right? You can use it. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but it's just that you get a lot of the Skyscanner design stuff is encoded in there, and there's room to override some of it, but not everything. So if you want to build a Skyscanner product, it's awesome. Just as a illustration of how we done it, and because we looked at lots of other design systems when we built it, and that we found out very valuable. So we wanted to kind of give back as this is how we've done it, and just to share the knowledge and see how and spread that concept. And also because it's honestly having stuff in the open really keeps you honest about how you do things, right? So you know that everything you do every day is fully open source, and it's a direct reflection on you and your company. I think that helps a lot in terms of not doing stupid shit that's fast. You're slightly more hesitant to do that.
How does Skyscanner feel about that? Are they pretty supportive?
Yeah, Skyscanner like this. It's been really well received outside Skyscanner as well. The people who've looked at it and used it and been inspired by it have really liked it. I ran a workshop when I was in Barcelona for Full Stack Fest, and that was extremely well received. And a reason now, and a lot of people were kind of coming up to me after work saying oh, that'd be awesome, I want to do something like this. And it's just so good to be able to say yeah, go to our GitHub and you can just look at all of it and just copy it straight up if you want to do something similar. That kind of stuff really helps as well. So yeah.
Daypicker support ranges, say 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Like you set ranges.
You can set ranges of within where you can pick dates. We don't, like Skyscanner traditionally don't do range picking in a single calendar. We always have two. So when we do like departure and return departure dates, we always do it one picker for the departure and one for the return. So we haven't built one that has the range built in.
We use the bootstrap one that fucking sucks.
Right. No, ours does not do that in that way, because we just haven't made the choice. But I think there are some people who want to have it that way, but we'll see. Yeah, contribute it. Exactly. That's another one, right? If people do contribute valuable things, it's awesome because we get it free in that case. Yeah.
Date pickers are really hard. They're really
Yeah, I'm really happy I didn't do ours because it took 2 months.
How do you handle like different stages of ECMAScript and different stages of proposals through things that are supported in Babel but not really official? How do you support them in something like an open source library where you have like?
So we publish uncompiled. So we use SAS. So a lot of our, like if you go look at our Atom-like stuff, like a badge, they have a React instantiation, which is like BPK badge, my badge. But then for a lot of stuff, we also have like SAS mixins. Oops, that's not what I want to do. And the SAS mixins are what's used in the React components. But because we do styling via SAS, we want to publish uncompiled. So we kind of push compilation on our consumers in that regard. And we, it was mentioned before that we publish a custom version of Create React app that's tailored made for Skyscanner. So that includes support for compiling our packages as part of your own app.
So in your custom version of Create React app, it will always support anything that you have in Backpack.
Yeah, we in Skyscanner, we have this thing internally we have a set of standards that kind of define what our engineering's best practices are. And one of those defines kind of where we're at with ECMAScript. We tend to favor TC39 stage 4 or above. Like we're not keen on individual teams can diverge from this, but like typically we're not super keen on people going like stage 1, stage 2 things because they'll, like observables, for example, like it doesn't pan out every time. And also like because it's Create React app, it doesn't leave you that much room to customize it, which is kind of good. Cool.
What code coverage?
I mean, it's quite interesting actually because Backpack doesn't have an enormous set of we have tests, but like a big chunk of our tests are snapshot tests. And we have some like enzyme style tests, but what we found kind of is that if you have something like a callback, just knowing that you put the callback in like at the top level component and it shows up at the right level in the snapshot, you don't need a test that goes and clicks that thing, because like now you're just testing browser implementation anyway. So in some regards, we don't have test coverage for Backpack is the answer, but we also have really high quality. We have very few bugs for what we do, and the bugs we have are rarely things we would have caught with tests anyway. They're like, browser, this doesn't work in Safari X, which it looks weird or whatever. Daypicker has a lot of, but the Daypicker also has a lot of logic extracted into like viewless code. That's straightforward to test. The Daypicker does have like quite a lot of enzyme style tests as well. I think that's probably one of the complexity components, also one of the more tested ones, but like straightforward ones are super easy, right? See if we can find one. So the tests for the badge go, it should render correctly. It should render correctly with centered. That's all the tests we have for that one. Because like snapshot tests are awesome. They're really good for this stuff. So we haven't suffered from this choice. And with React Native, yeah. that's kind of one of the benefits of being in my team, is that we build atoms and molecules, and that really puts a nice threshold on how complex things can be. And then you go OC, and that's where everything can get really bad, and we don't have to deal with that. React Native has this thing where like enzyme for React Native is quite immature. So like all of our React Native components are only snapshot tested, which works. We haven't built a ton of React Native components that are super advanced yet. We'll see when we get there how that'll pan out. Yeah, that's our squad lead. But yeah. No more questions. Good.
For the meetup today, and then today is like very Skyscanner heavy meetup, but it's not usually like this. So if any of your company you want to share about your company's stack or challenges you have encountered, just give me a shout, and then we can schedule something next time. And then yeah, and then Slack group. And then, yeah, there. I think someone already posted a link. Corrected. I think. Yeah, nice, great, awesome. All right. Okay. So have a good night. Thank you very much for coming.